back everyone to Light Code Tutorials. We are continuing our Django beginner series. In our previous video, we learned about Django models. We made some migrations. We wrote a simple model called developers. We saved it to the database and explored the Django admin interface to save our data. So in this video, we are diving into templates in Django, how we can display data dynamically to the user using Django templates. My name is Lights and let's get started. Now, what are Django templates? What is it all about? Django templates are used to generate dynamic HTML content, which means content that can change from time to time based on various factors like database queries or user inputs. Django template has a simple syntax that is used to separate the presentation layer from the business logic layer. So when I say presentation layer, I meant how data is displayed to the end user, how we see the data. This data is displayed with the aid of tags and filters, which we're going to see in a bit. The business logic layer handles the data processing and the business rules, and this is managed by the Django views or generated from our views.py file. So the views retrieves data from the database, process those data if it's necessary, and then pass it to the templates for rendering. Now here are the syntax or the basic syntax and features of Django templates. We have the variables. Variables in Django are enclosed in double curly braces, as you can see on the screen. They are used to attribute values from context. So this context is from our views or from our views.py files. An example is this, as you can see, title being in double curly braces. Title there is a variable that is passed from the view to the template. Secondly, we have filters. Filters modify the display of variables. They are added with the pipe character. You can locate your pipe character is that vertical dash that is on the keyboard close to your curly braces. So that's where the pipe character is. So as you can see the example, title there with the pipe character lower indicates that the value of title is going to be in lowercase. So they're all going to be in lowercase. We'll see an example of how that happens or how that works. The third basic syntax is the tags. The tags control the logic of the templates and are enclosed in this format: a single curly braces, a percentage sign, another percentage sign, and a closing curly braces. So the tags can be used for loops, they can be used for writing conditions, and also including other templates in a template. So this is an example of a tag. As you can see, just like we are writing a Python condition, just that we are writing it in HTML file. Don't bother if you don't understand this. This is just an example of how tags can be used, how tags can be used. We're going to see an example as we go forward. Now, let us put all this theory into practice. Remember that we created a model developers, which is this model here, and we stored it in a database in our previous video. Now we're gonna get those data and display them to the user using Django templates. So that is what we're gonna do now. For us to do so, I'm gonna activate my terminal, my virtual environment, because it's not activated currently. So I'm gonna do that now. So the name of my virtual environment, scripts activate. Great, my virtual environment is now activated. So I'm gonna take it out, and I'm going to start with the views, the business logic of our application. So I'll move on to a views.py file here inside our new app directory. I'm gonna go there. Now we can see this view, the first view we created earlier. So we're gonna build up from it. We're gonna build up from this index view here. Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is to import the model that we created, the developers model that we created in our models of py file, which is this here. So I'm gonna import that, say from .models. No, from .models import, sorry, developers. So now I've imported that model. Now I can use it in this my view. I can use it in my view now. So I'm gonna get rid of this return statement here because I'm not gonna use it any longer. So I'm gonna create a variable called developers, which is gonna store our developer objects.all. I'm gonna explain this code in bits. I'm gonna return and render it, which taking a first argument of requests and the templates we're gonna use to render that view or the data index.html, and finally our context. Great, so we are done with the views now. Now let me go through what I just did here. Now this line of code here, is used to retrieve data from database in Django. So it's specifically getting all the data from the developers model. So this developers here is a model class. So you can just imagine it as a blueprint for creating and managing developers data. That is their name, their roles, and even the time and date they were created. Just as we did so, we created it here. So just like a blueprint for creating those data. Now, these objects here is called the default manager in Django. So it's the default manager for the developers model. A manager is a special class that Django uses to interact with the database. it allows you to perform database queries. So with this objects keyword here, you can now interact and talk to the database and ask it for certain things that you want. Now the all, this all statement here, dot all, and the parentheses there. This is a query set. A query set is a collection of database queries. So when we use this dot all here, we are creating a query set that includes all the records from the developer's table in the database. So we're getting the name, we're getting the rows as we did here, we're getting the first name, we're getting the row, we're getting the created at. So that is what the all does. It gets all the queries, all the records from the developer's database. And then finally, this last line, this last piece of code is a render function. Is a render function that passes the list of developers. So this render function passes the list of developers, which is the records of those of developer class, the name, the rows. So it passes it to this new app index.html. This is our HTML file that we're going to use to display those data that we retrieve from the database. So the HTML file is going to render those data. Now we have our view, our logic in place, and we have already created our URL as we did from the previous video. So we're just going to leave it like this unchanged. The next thing we're going to do is to create the templates. The index.html templates we're going to use to display our data. To do that, in our new app directory here, let's create a folder. We call it templates. Great. Now inside that templates folder we just created, we create another folder called new app. This new app is sharing the same name with our application, our Django app, and that is how Django wants it. That is how Django wants it to be named. You name the name of your template, same with the new app there. So inside that new app, we now create our file, which we call, this time we're creating a file which we call index.html. So it's a HTML file. Now we're going to create a simple HTML structure. So I'm not only going to type out all the HTML structure because VS Code comes with a boilerplate for us to use. So I'm going to click on the exclamation mark. I'm using Shift and that exclamation. You can see these two options here. So I'm going to click enter, which is for the first one. Enter. So it's going to generate a boilerplate HTML for us to start using. Great. Now I'm just going to simply create a h1 element inside the body tag here and call it, say, developers data. So the next thing is to test out this page if it's actually working. So I'm going to run our server here, Python manage.py run server. Sorry, I'm not, before that I need to cd into this directory, into my project directory here. Make sure you cd into your project directory if you haven't. So I'm gonna run that command python manager pure console. Great, our server is running and I'm gonna go over to the ports. So remember, the setting of speed not found because it needs an additional. The URL is not complete, so it's saying admin and home. So we are going to the home / home, and great, our page is working. We have the h1 tag which says developers data as we created in our HTML file here. So we're in good condition. We're in good hands now. So let's move forward further. The next thing we're going to do is to get the models, the data, the first name, the row we created that. Those names we save into the database. If you don't remember, you can go back to the admin page and see them. So admin, then you log in, and then you go back to developer here. Okay, you can see DevOps front end, back end. That's because we from this. Okay, look at the name Jane. Next one is Lucas and Light. So these are the names and the rows we're going to retrieve from the database. Let's go back. We are seeing those the rows because of this self dot row. If we change it to self dot first name, we're gonna get the first name here. So let's go back to our index.html page and write out the code that will pull out or display the data for us from the database. So we're gonna use tags and variables, the Django template tags and variables here. So what we're gonna do is write a condition saying for developer, we're gonna loop a loop rather for developer in developers. So we're gonna put the p tag with the variable developer dot first name. I believe that's how we named it in the database, the models, and developer dot rows. And we're gonna end the loop using tags also and for. Great, so this is how we're pulling data, the data from the database. Just like a Python code, we're running a loop. You say for developer in developers. Now this developers is this context here in our views.py file. It is this developers. Remember that all the data of the developer model is stored in these developers. I mean the first name, the rows, and the dates. So they are all stored in these developers. That is why we are looping through it here. We are using the variable developer in developers. And now we are pulling out the first name, which is developer dot first name. We're pulling out the rows, developer dot rows. I believe you understand that. So let us check it out in our browser and we go over to home, which is our home page. Sorry, not admin, home alone. Home alone. Great. and refresh. We're not seeing our data. What's wrong? Mm, developer dot developers. Mm, okay, I see where the problem is. I made a typo error, like I misspelled developers here, as you can see, saying this is a correct spelling developers, and I'm spelling developers. I'm going to correct that to developers. So this has to be same with this. This dictionary here is the context that is reflecting in our HTML page here. So I've created it developers. Great. So let's go back to our page and refresh it. Good. As we can see, we are seeing the name of the developers saved in the database. Light, Lucas, and Jane. And I'm sure I added the rows there. Let's check. Yeah, I added the rows here and it's not showing. Let's see what is it in the models. Okay, it's row, not rows. So we take off the S. It's row, not rows. So refresh and great. You see Light back end, Lucas front end, Jane DevOps. Exactly the data that was stored in the database. So this is how we can retrieve data from the database and render it to the user to see. Although it's not looking pretty, that can be done with CSS, or you can even put it in the table if you know HTML. But the main idea is for us to know how this works and how we can draw data from the database. Now, before we round up, we're going to use filters to see. We made mention of filters as one of the tags or syntax in Django template system. So we're going to use filters here in developer of first name. So I'm going to use the pipe here and say upper. I'm going to transfer the first name, all first names to uppercase. So this is how you do so. You use a pipe and then how you want to modify your variable. So I'm using the upper to put them the first name to transform them to all uppercase. So let's go back to the browser and confirm that. I'm going to refresh this page and as you can see, all names are transformed to uppercase rather. Let me grab a word. Yeah. So all names are transferred to uppercase, as you can see. You can also do so for the rows. And they work just fine. So that is how that's just the basics of templates. There are a lot of things you can do with templates. You can inherit from one template to another. You can use other filter methods like length, lower, dates to format dates. There are more and much more you can do with Django template system. So this is just the basics. Don't worry if you don't understand it. Just have to practice more and it's going to become familiar to you. That is how I learned mine. I made a couple of projects. I tweeted. I did created I was creating Django projects on and on and on my computer. And I was practicing before I knew it. I became very much familiar. Not perfect, but I became familiar with how Django operates, and you too can do the same. So don't be overwhelmed. You revise the video, you visit the video, watch it again if you don't understand anything. And very soon you see it's gonna click in memory. So thank you so much for watching. This is where we're gonna stop for today's tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're gonna look into forms and user inputs in Django. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, hit on the like button, drop your comments if you have any comments, and also hit the notification bell to get notified for our latest video. Once again, thanks for watching and chase your goals.